但是我们也注意到这几年经济的发展总是起起伏伏，企业的经营呢还是面临着很多的不确定性。请问您如何看待去年的这份成绩单？为了保持和创造更好的成绩，今年我们还将在哪些方面做出努力？
With China National Radio, last year all Chinese SOEs, including central government enterprises, performed very well, which was also coupled with economic fluctuations and uncertainties. How do you see this report card, and what will be the work in 2018? Thank you.
谢谢您的提问。2017年啊，
First of all, thank you for your question. In 2017, the SOEs and the central government enterprises has achieved good results, and we have released these results to you. I want to review some of the statistics. And for last year, the revenue of SOE has reached 50 trillion RMB, with the profit 2.9 trillion RMB, with a 17.7% increase and 23.5% respectively. And for the central government enterprises, has achieved 24 trillion in revenue and 1.42 trillion in profits, with a 13.3% and 15.2% increase year-over-year, respectively. This sets the record for the growth for these SOEs and the central government enterprises, and we also make a great contribution in the build-out of the engineering projects. I don't know whether you see the film The Amazing China. It's a documentary. In the film, we have showed the build-out of the bridge, waterway resources, and the important ports of China. All of this work has been carried out by state-owned companies in China. And for the SOEs, have strictly followed the guiding principle of the central government. And last year, we also achieve great achievements in the area of space mission program and other programs. And for all the enterprise awards that have been granted last year, central government enterprises has won over 83 awards. In addition to a sound financial performance of the central government enterprises, they also contribute to the work of poverty alleviation and the cost reduction for the nation. For central government enterprise, they have delivered a good result in 2017 and has set the very good example to show the work they have been done in the past 5 years since the 18th Central Party Congress. And in the past few years, they have developed a series of projects. Last year, based on some of the figures we have for the central government enterprises, for the industry-based company, they have increased their profits by 18.7 trillion RMB, which accounts for 61% of their revenue. Second, we make further steps to improve the supply side reform. And we also see some improvements in the capacity of the steel and coal production. And the central government enterprises and the SOE also make contributions for the restructuring and make sound progress. And also, we have eliminated some of the poor performing companies. All of these efforts have to help to improve the proficiency. And we also see some progress in the restructuring with the SOEs and the central government enterprise. And the central government enterprise have strengthened their work for the restructuring, completing the restructuring for 83 companies. This kind of restructuring has brought magic to the market. And for the central government enterprise, they also cut down the cost and improve their competitiveness in the market. For the inventory level, they have made a reduction in the inventory level. And yesterday, we also received the figures for January and February this year. And in these 2 months, the revenue we have achieved is 4.1 trillion. And also have a 266 billion yuan increase. For the profits, also have over 20% year-over-year growth. So we are heading towards a good start for this year. Based on these figures, we can see that we're very confident for the trajectory of this year. We will continue to take further steps in order to maintain the stability of the management and the operation and make a sustainable growth. We want to set the good start for 2018. On the other hand, we need to place our emphasis on the quality development. And we will continue to improve the capacity of these central government enterprises. With major engineering projects, we should assume more responsibilities. And at the same time, a very sound and effective evaluation assessment mechanism will be introduced. And this evaluation mechanism will ensure that we continue to follow the trend of this good start. Thank you. Please continue to raise questions.
好，谢谢。我是中国网记者。今年是贯彻党的19大精神的开局之年，也是改革开放40周年。国企改革在经济体制改革中始终处于重要地位。那当前仍然是社会公众关注的热点话题。那我想问，站在新的历史起点上，能否给我们介绍一下国资委在推动国企国资的改革方面会有哪些新的举措？谢谢。
With China.com.cn, this year marks the commencement of the implementation of the guiding principles of the 19th CPC National Congress and the 40th anniversary of Reform and Opening Up. SOE reform has been an important part of the economic structural reform and is still in the limelight. As we stand at a new historical juncture, what new measures will SASAC take to advance SOE reform? Thank you.
谢谢您的提问。党的19大
Thank you for your question. For the 19th Party National Congress has set guidelines for the SASAC reform and also put forth the requirements. And during the 2 sessions, the government report also sends out signals and instructions for us. We should focus on the projects that has been identified by the central government. For example, the 1+N project. And we have to make extensive steps to further strengthen this implementation of the projects. I would like to highlight a few aspects. The first one, how can we make more extensive progress? Last year, we highlight on 10 pilot programs. 18 companies are working towards this project and become the part of the pilot program. In addition to that, we will continue to expand the pilot program. For some pilot programs, they are conducted by the second tier and the third tier companies, and we will raise to the project to a corporate level. And for these 10 pilot programs, it is a one-directional program. According to the instruction from the central government, we will make this pilot program more comprehensive. By doing this, we want to see more results and achievements in the process of the reform.
And this year we will also launch the initiative of due changes. So, which means that all of these reforms should deliver tangible benefits as soon as possible, and we would also like to establish the good examples and showcase our reform achievements and push forward all our actions and a rest of policies. We will also further intensify reforms from the central level to the local levels. As for oversight and supervision, we change our focus from managing enterprises to managing capitals. By doing so, the supervision efforts will be further enhanced in a more targeted and efficient way. Based on the guidance and the requirement, we will also do the category-based method. So we will achieve further results in category-based supervision and oversight. And for the ownership reform is also our focus for this year. Last year, based on the company registration law, we made our first step in reform in this regard, and we will further roll out our scope to corporate ownership restructuring and the corporate governance system will also in our scope of reform. Make sure that all our actions can reflect the requirement in a flexible and high-efficient requirement. We will also strengthen the leadership under the Central Party Committee. This is also to leverage the advantage of Party Central Committee management system. We will also have identified the clear role and responsibility of the board. Make sure the governance in a balanced and effective way, as well as flexible. We'll further improve market-driven operation system. And on the other hand, we will focus on the strategic restructuring, which include two parts. First part that covers the mother group level restructuring, make it more sound. And second, we will also further in detail restructuring, and we will also have the new pilot restructuring program. So right now we have the issues like one corporation that covers so many different sectors, and they also have so many different subsidiaries, which basically hinder their efficiency. That is why restructuring is very necessary, because we want to linear the corporate and increase their performance. For the corporate that have already undergone the restructuring, make sure right now they generate more synergy and create the benefits of restructuring. We also found another issue during our reform drive last year. We dealt with the deep-seated historic issues. We already achieved the initial results. This year, we will continue our drive in this regard with local governments. We will basically complete our works in dealing with the historical issues, as well as separations in education, culture, and other sectors. On top of that, we will also encourage companies to be more transparent and release information publicly. Make sure information are all under the sun to receive the oversight or the supervision from the society, from media. Make sure all these SOEs can develop in an open, transparent, and sound way. Make sure all of them can be a world-class ones. And we will also have a group of companies that can leading the global allocation of resources. We will also cultivate a group of enterprises championing the technology development. We will also have a group of enterprises that can have a greater say in global stage. So by doing all of these, we want to have our enterprises that have the world-class competitive advantages. We will further follow the plans and decisions made by the Central Party Committee as well as state councils. Of course, this is a long journey for us, but we have every single reason to believe we will make it this year. Thank you.
请左区第5排靠近过道第1位那位穿灰衣色衣服的女士。
您好，肖主任，我是财新周刊财新网的记者，想请问一个问题：党的19大提出了做强、做优、做大国有资本，之前的提法是做强、做优、做大国有企业。这一新的提法对于国资监管和中央企业来说意味着什么？有哪些新的变化？今年我们是不是还能看到像联通这样大的混改？
With Caixin Weekly, the 19th Party Congress set out a goal of supporting state capital in becoming stronger, doing better, and growing bigger. State capital replaced SOE in this sentence in terms of wording. What does this new wording mean to the supervision and administration of state capital and central government enterprises, and what changes will take place in this year? Thank you.
好，谢谢您的问题。
Thank you for your question.
推动国有资本做强、做优、做大。
To achieve the goal of strengthening, expanding, and increasing returns on state capital, this is the new requirement to SOEs as well as managing state capital oversight. I invite my colleague to answer your question. Mr. Peng Huagang, thank you for your question. Strengthening, expanding, and increasing returns on state capital is a decision made in the 19th Central Party Committee. It's also the new requirement mentioned by General Secretary Xi Jinping. talk about changing the wording from SOE to state capital. This reflects our new development philosophy and methods. We will also have a change in this regard. No matter it's from the state capital to SOEs, all game-changing methods will be adopted. So from managing enterprises to managing capitals, this is a new shift. So we will also change the functions of the government or related departments accordingly. So we will have a better manage and improvement and enlarge our efforts in this regard. Let's talk about number one, to make it the state capital more flexible. We should empower the scope, and we have first identified the scope of the state capital oversight. Of course, also empower the state capital in a flexible way and to consolidate the management in the corporate governance system. We give more power to them, not meaning we will not manage them. We will also strengthen our oversight. We will make our methods in a more performance-driven way to ensure they will be in a sound development direction. We will also make sure we will not. We will keep the right line. Is like no state capitals losing. Based on the guidelines set out by the central government and Party Central Committee, we will put our energies in the key sectors, including people's living standards, the security issues. We will also focus our efforts in the strong companies. They have a strong performance. And we will keep our efforts to increase their efficiencies, make sure the ownership reform can leverage the advantages. For SOEs, actually, this is also the new requirements to them. For the SOEs, they should focus on the quality of their asset portfolio. We talk about enlarge the scope, but on the other hand, make sure they're strengthened and increase returns. So the capitals, they should focus on the high yield rate programs and deleveraging to decrease the debt to asset ratio. Second, they should also focus more on the yield rate or the returns. We look at the enterprises' returns. We not only look at their profit, we should also look at their incremental numbers as well as their return on equity. And third, we should strengthen our efforts to avoid companies to just bluntly increasing their scope for the sake of doing it. Number four, we should better leverage our resources allocation. So each company they have very clear idea on their main strategies. Anything not really serve to their main strategies should be parked aside. So we should have a better allocation based on their strategies, directions. And we will also roll out our pilot programs as well as enlarge the role of platforms, make sure the state capital can operate in an efficient and flexible way. Regarding your second question, also your last question, whether there is any big joint stock reform. Actually, the minister just answered it. If conditions is favorable, we will continue our work in this regard. Thank you.
请中区第3排靠左侧第4位那穿黄色衣服的女同志。谢谢主持人，我是中央电视台、央视网、央视新闻移动网的记者。 我看到今年的政府工作报告中提出，国有企业要通过改革创新，走在高质量发展前列。所以在这儿呢，我想请问肖主任，国资委应该怎么做？企业又该做什么，才能真正让国有企业走上高质量发展之路？谢谢。
With China Central Television, according to this year's government work report to the NPC and CPPCC sessions, SOEs will spearhead high-quality development through reform and innovation. What will SASAC and enterprises do to achieve high-quality development? Thank you.
好，谢谢您的问题。党的19大
Thank you for your question.
对高质量发展提出了明确的要求。
The party's 19th National Congress had a very clear requirement on high-quality development. General Secretary Xi Jinping
到高质量发展
also asked the economy shift from
对我们
the high-quantity development to high-quality development.
提出了明确的要求。我们从中央企业的情况看
So this also set tones for our future development. Looking at SOEs, for 2017 only, 48 SOEs in China is on the list of best 500. For the China Grid, the PetroChina, Sinopec are ranking number 2, 3, and 4. They are all SOEs. Of course, they have a very good performance in scale, but for the high-quality development, there are a lot of room to improve. So talking about high-quality development, our first priority is to strengthen our real sectors, so which means the manufacturing sectors.
For the high-end manufacturing industry, in addition to the existing foundation and the structure, we will continue to develop and upgrade this industry and shift them into a high-end manufacturing industry, so as to improve the capability to make our own equipment. On the other hand, we should continue to invest our resources into the emerging industries. By doing this, we can drive a new growth factor, which can help us to ensure a high-quality development. For example, the large aircraft manufacturing, this is a very key area for us. And we need to continue to improve the efficiency and prioritize of our performance and efficiency. And for the year ahead, we will continue to optimize the structure of the central government enterprises in the SOE so as to improve the efficiency. And also, we need to pay attention to cut overcapacity. In addition to these efforts, and we should improve the managerial capability and the operating structure of the company. We should learn experience from those world-class enterprises in terms of the managerial experience in order to improve our capability in the governing of the state-owned company and the central government enterprises. And for high-quality growth, this is very important for the central government enterprises. And these companies should stay open for the development and welcome experiences for those first-class, first-tier companies across the world. And we are expecting to cooperate with those world-leading companies. We may try to own cooperation with a mixed ownership, and we also want to cooperate with the private companies. And we are welcoming those world companies who are interested in cooperation with the state-owned enterprises. Through all this cooperation, it is our aim to head towards a high-quality economic development. Thank you.
谢谢主持人，肖主任、彭秘书长，下午好。我是来自上海证券报和中国证券网的记者。我们注意到，去年以来，央企在防范化解重大风险，尤其是降杠杆、减负债方面做了不少工作。央企的负债率有所下降，社会上对此也非常的关注。能否请您介绍一下这方面的情况？谢谢。
With Shanghai Securities News, last year, central government enterprises have done a lot to forestall and diffuse risks, including shedding debts and deleverage, and their debt level has been lowered as a result. Many people have been following this very closely. Do you have more information to share with us? Thank you.
好，谢谢您的提问。化解重大风险
Thank you for your question.
已经列入中央经济工作会
Forestall and diffuse risks is one of the key targets in our economic world conferences, and this is also the top task we have to fulfill for the three critical battles. For central government enterprises, if we talk about the debt, in the past few years, we can see that the debt-to-asset ratio of the central government enterprises is controlled within a reasonable range and experienced a certain decrease. And for the profit of the central government enterprises, this is 54.5 trillion, and the debt ratio is around 66.3 trillion. And we can further analyze the debt for the central government. For the debt from the bank, it is around 9.6 trillion, and for the debt from other areas, it is 3.8 trillion. So in general, the debt range is reasonable. And also, other parts of the debt are coming from the normal operation of the enterprise. When we see a relatively stable debt percentage, we realize that in some of the subsidiaries of the central government enterprises, they have a higher debt-to-asset ratio and bear a higher risk. That's why we try to control the risk for these central government enterprises and make efforts in the deleveraging. And all of this will stay important in our work for the upcoming years. For the oversight and the supervision companies, we should stay focused on the category-based risk management approach. We have set a threshold as like a risk threshold. Within this threshold, we further increase this number. Previously, the figure is 75%, and we will continue to increase the threshold for them. For these companies who have a higher risk, and we will strengthen our supervision and oversight. And the parent companies of those subsidiaries, they should hold fully accountable for the performance of those subsidiaries and pay close attention to the debt ratio of these subsidiaries. Through all of these regulations and the oversight, we try to sustain a stable debt ratio. deleveraging and lowering the debt, it is one of the two financial indicators for SOEs and the central government enterprises. And we will also add more state capital for those companies. And this year, we are focusing on a market-based approach. And they will sign agreement to further implement actions to help expand and increase returns. And all of these efforts help to lower the debt ratio. Last year, the central government also raised funds at around 357 billion yuan and make a flexible use of the existing capitals. We will make use of the static capital of the company as well as control the risk and some overseas risks. And the main target is to lower the total for the debt for this year and reduce the debt ratio and better manage our risk. In general, for the SOEs and the central government enterprises, we should lead the effort in reducing the deleveraging. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm with Bloomberg News. You have said that SASAC welcomes foreign investment in mixed ownership reform, but we haven't seen any examples yet. Can you say what measures SASAC will take to encourage foreign investment, and how will it protect the interests of non-state investors, whether they are domestic or foreign? Thank you.
彭博社记者，您刚才提到国资委欢迎外资参与中国国企的混合所有制改革，但目前在这方面我们还没有看到任何的例子。请问国资委会采取怎样的措施来鼓励外资参与混改，同时保护非公有制股东的权益？谢谢。
好，谢谢您的问题。这个我刚才讲了。
Thank you for your question.
混合所有制改革呀，我们已经。
As I just mentioned, for the reform of the mixed ownership, we have conducted pilot programs for 2 groups of enterprises and achieved very sound results. We have some reform for some subsidiary companies and also some parent companies of these subsidiary companies. In the future, we will further our efforts in the reform of the mixed ownership. And this will become one major task for us. Hopefully, we can achieve very sound results. One of the principles is very important for the mixed ownership reform. That is to encourage all the parties related to fulfill their roles and make advantage of their value. And all of these investors can make good use of their value and share the interest and complement with each other. During this process, I just mentioned that we want to hold an open will for all the companies who are interested in participating in the reform of mixed ownership, including foreign invested companies. We welcome their participation in the reform. And China marks the 40th year anniversary of reform and opening up. Last year, President Xi Jinping delivered a speech in Davos. And personally, I felt that his speech is very important for the reform and provide guidance for the reform of SOE and central government enterprises. We will protect the investors, encourage them to participate in the reform on mixed ownership, and we want these investors can fulfill their rights when they make investments to the mixed ownership structure. This is the general concept. And I also want you to take a review on the initial achievements for the companies who have been participated in the mixed ownership reform. But of course, during the implementation of the reform, there may be some challenges and difficulties, but the general direction is set, and I really want to see more companies participate in this reform, especially for those good performing foreign invested companies. Thank you.
谢谢主持人，我是中国国际广播电台和国际在线的记者。就是我们注意到，从今年开始有不少中央企业从全民所有制改为了国有独资。那这一变化和调整呢，会对这个企业的发展还有经营管理会带来哪些变化？另外呢，进行这样的调整目的是什么？谢谢。
With China Radio International, no small number of central government enterprises that were previously owned by the whole people are now under sole state ownership. What are the ramifications of this change to the development and management of these enterprises, and what is the goal of these changes? Thank you.
好，谢谢你的问题啊。我想这个问题呢，请彭华。
Thank you for your question. I invite Mr. Peng Huagang to answer your question.
刚才呢，主任在亚庆主任讲改革的时候也介绍过，就去年我们完成了。
As the chairman answered the questions regarding the reforms in the mixed ownership. We will further our efforts in Dongbi Enterprises overhaul. Besides the central administrated SOEs for the local level government managed companies will also finish the initial round of reform, will make the historical achievements as well as breakthroughs. If we talk about the SOE reforms 10 or 20 years later, we will talk about right now at this, standing at this time period, we first finished the first initiative in the reforms. Let me elaborate in 3 parts. Number 1, we identify the clear R&R. Based on the cooperative law mentioned, based on the amount of investment, they take the corresponding responsibilities. So the companies have the solid legal person rights. So this makes the corporate become a solid market entity. So SOEs, after the reforms to standard enterprises, they have a clear responsibilities. These also help the companies can bear the risk by themselves and manage by themselves, and also to take all the responsibilities in their financial statements. Will further open our space in reform. Talking about the reform from SOEs to standard enterprises, that's the first step. We will also focus on the mixed ownership. the company listed in the market. All of these are actually the second steps based on the reforms from SOE to standard enterprises. Third, we have a higher requirement. We not just say it's just change its identity or just change a name, but indeed we actually establish an effective and balanced corporate governance system, and also in cope with the flexible and ever-changing market environment to make our enterprises more vigorous. Of course, still room to improve. In the coming future, we will further our efforts in this regard. Thank you.
谢谢主持人。肖主任好，我是成都商报记者。然后我的一个问题是关于国有资本划转社保基金的。就去年底，国务院下发了文件，划转部分国有资本充实社保基金的实施方案，要求划转比例是10%。所以想请问，目前这项工作的进展是什么情况？然后今年大概还会有多少家央企和地方国企会继续执行这项划转国有资本充实社保基金的要求？那么这项划转对这些央企或者国企国有资本，他们会不会有一些相应的负担呢？谢谢。
With Chengdu Commercial Daily, at the end of last year, the State Council issued a document on appropriating a share of state capital to replenish Social Security Fund, and the share is 10%. What is the latest progress in this regard? How many central government enterprises and other SOEs will continue to do this year? And will this mean liabilities on SOEs and state-owned capital? Thank you.
谢谢您的问题。看来我们记者呀，对国有企业研究的很深透、很广泛。
It seems like all the journalists had a very deep understanding of our policies as well as reforms. Regarding to your question about shifting state-owned capitals to enrich Social Security Fund, so this shift is follow the decisions made by the Party Central Committee and State Council. So this also helped to fill in the gap, or this is one of the sources to fill in the gap of Social Security funds. So the SOEs and central and the local levels fully support the decisions, and we will put into the actions. This year, based on the requirement in this regard, we will select 3 companies as pilot programs. Of course, during the whole process, there are many different milestones, many different detailed requirements, as well as requirements on capitals. So we will choose 3 suitable ones to do the trial program, and we will see the result to adjust our plans. Talking about after shifting, whether that bring the liabilities to SOEs, please allow me to state very clearly, same as before, the shift will not impact SOEs' operation and not operate their daily running for the solely state ownership as well as to the mixed ownership enterprises. It only shift the state-owned share part. So this is where we continue our efforts following the guidance issued by the Central Party Committee and the State Council. We will push forward to implement the works in this regard. Thank you.
谢谢主持人，我是法制日报、法制网和法制日报新闻客户端的记者。我们关注到，在今年的政府工作报告当中提出，深化国有资本投资运营公司等试点改革，要赋予更多的自主权。那么，我想请问的是，我们应该如何准确地来理解 更多自主权。所谓更多二字，它包含了哪些方面的内容？同时，下一步国资委将采取哪些具体的措施，或是建立哪些相关的机制，来确保报告的这一要求得到落实呢？谢谢。
With Legal Daily, in the government work report, it has been put forward that more decision-making power will be given to state capital investment and management companies. How should we understand this, and what is it about specifically that more decision-making power will be given to them, and how will SASAC materialize this with measures and mechanisms? Thank you.
好，谢谢您的提问。李克强总理在政府工作报告
Thank you.
中明确提出，要赋予
In the government report delivered by Premier Li Keqiang, it stated clearly that we will grant SOEs more decision-making power.
贯彻落实好，就是要根据国有资
We
本
will
资运营公司
put this into our action
的运营
fully.
模式，进一
So
步地
based on the
加大
positioning
的力度，
and the models of operation,
开展
we
国有
will
资本资
empower
运营公司试点的一个
to
一
SOEs.
项重要的内容。
This is also
那么这
the
几
one
年
of
来
key
在
moves
试点过程
in
中
our trial
做了进一步的
reforms
探
in
索
state capital investment and
您知道
management
去年的
companies.
国资委
We did a lot of
根据
research
这样
and
的要求
and
进一步地
the
理顺我们的监管
studies in this
行政
regard.
职责，对越位错
We
位不到位的地
first
方
identified the clear role and responsibilities in this
下放了
regard.
18项权利。
We first
今年呢
adjust
我们
the
会将
responsibility and
部
we
分
also
出任
actually
的权利
grant 18 powers
放到
or
两
the
类公司
delegation powers to
比如
SOEs.
说
And we will further our efforts in this regard to two kinds of companies.
规划。与此同时呢，我们对
To
一些
like the
重大事
company's
项的管理
investment plan or their
比如说
strategic plan,
内部
they have their
分
own say.
工资总额的
For the
报备制度
like the
等等
internal
今年呢
salary
这两类
structure
公司啊
to the
要在
package
原有试点
of
基础上
employees.
要做进一步的调整。
So on
与此
the
同时
original
呢，
trial,
我们也想在
we
试点
will
过程
make
中
the
对两类
changes
公
to
司
two kinds of
集
companies.
团本身对内部
And
子
during
企
the
业的管理
trials
权利，有些在国资委的，我
For
们
the
放给
state capital
两类
investment
公
and
司
management
我们也
companies,
希望呢，通过这样一个试点过程，两类
we
公司
will
集
they will
团
get
要
more
把权利呢
rights
逐步放给
delegated from
下边的
SASAC.
能够子企
And
业。
these two companies will also continue to give more rights to their subsidiaries.
我们也不能让这些权利啊
Talking
先把
about
权利落地
to giving more powers
做好
to
衔
capital
接
investment and management
和服务工作
companies,
使得我们
we will
两类
also
公司的
do a
试点过程
transformation role to
能够
make
实现
sure
我们
these can
最初
be
的目的，
transformed in a
使得
smooth
呢
way
我们这个
and
两
to
类公司啊
reach our
这个
original
运
goal
行
to make sure the capital investment and management companies
谢谢，请继续
are
提
able
问。
to operate in a
请
desired
右区
and encouraging
第
way.
4排靠通道的这位男士。
谢谢主持人。香港商报记者提问：19大报告提出要培育具有全球竞争力的世界一流企业。刚刚肖主任也提到很多次，然后要向世界一流企业学习。这意味着国企，特别是央企集团公司，要向全球公司进行战略转型。而全球公司的基本特征是生产与资本经营的双国际化。我想请问，在资本经营的国际化上，我们将如何实现突破？谢谢。
With Hong Kong Commercial Daily, in the 19th Party Congress report, it has been put forward that efforts will be made to build world-class enterprises with global competitiveness. This means SOEs, particularly central government corporations, will need to make strategic transformations to become global corporations, and the basic feature of which is the internationalization of production and capital management. How to make breakthroughs in the internationalization of capital management? Thank you.
好，谢谢您的问题。
Thank you.
应该讲，您讲这个问题啊，是一个既是当前的问题。
The question you ask is a question regarding to the current situation and also the goals we would like to achieve in the long run. For 2017,
法人数一共有
the SOEs
目前拥有的资产总量
enriched
达到了
the
6.1
overseas
人民币。
legal persons to 92, and the scope
国家和地区
of our
达到了
investment
185家，185家。
185 家。
185家。
185家。 reach a higher level, and we have more than 151 companies have overseas investment or businesses. We make a very solid steps in internationalization. As I just mentioned, this year we celebrate the 40th anniversaries in China's opening up and reform. Looking back to the 40 years journey, it's very hard for us to find the numbers of SOEs 40 years ago. But based on our knowledge, the SOEs 40 years ago, they never made any steps or performance on the global stage. If we benchmark to the world-class companies, we still have a long way to go. Based on the 19th Party Central Congress guideline, it sets the new goals for us. So during our journey on internationalization, you mentioned we should learn from the world-class companies. And on the other hand, we should also strengthen our efforts in cooperation and opening up. As we all know, for one sectors or companies, we always would like to talk about competitions, which is fully understandable. But before competition, we should first talk about cooperation. Competition should be based on cooperation in order to achieve win-win or multiple beneficial results. Right now, it's really hard to make your company or your program beneficial, but others run in the right number. It is really rare to see under the current context. So for our next step, the SOEs, especially the centrally administered SOEs, based on our original plan, we should make further strides in this regard. Based on the original plan of investment, we should absorb the learnings.
Then, in the course of the globalization, we will make further contribution. Under the context of economic globalization, actually, it is more difficult to realize the internationalization, and we bear more risks and challenges. And we have very few central government enterprises and also SOEs that have realized the internationalization. It is a process of learning and practice. From the perspective of supervision, we also face new challenges as well. So going forward, we will continue to encourage our SOEs and the central government enterprises step outside of China to foster more international cooperation. At the same time, we should also strengthen our efforts for the supervision, which set a solid foundation to encourage our SOEs to form international cooperation. Thank you.
好，谢谢主持人。我是来自浙江卫视的记者。我们注意到有媒体报道称，今年的国企改革的一项重点任务是加强市值管理。那么我想请问肖主任，市值管理的主要内容包括哪些？如何引导国企做好这项工作？另外呢，就是最近不少省市纷纷表示要加速推进国有企业上市速度，提高国有资产的证券化率。比如浙江正在大力实施的凤凰行动计划，请问肖主任对此怎么看？谢谢。
With Zhejiang Satellite Television, as an important part of state-owned asset and central government enterprise reform in 2018 is to strengthen the management of market value. What measures will SASAC take to strengthen the management of market value for SOEs? Another question is about the SOEs at provincial and municipal levels. These SOEs are recently encouraged to list themselves public. So what is the comment of SASAC on this information? Thank you.
好，谢谢您的问题。
Thank you for your question. For the management of the market value, actually it's a very broad concept, which covers many areas of work. We have to understand it comprehensively. When we talk about market value management for SOEs and central government enterprises, we are talking about creating value and the realization of the value. We have 290 public traded central market government enterprises, and the value they created takes up 26% of the stock market. Also account for like 60% of the capital of the central government enterprises. So there are many areas we have to pay attention to for the management of the market value. For the public traded central government enterprises and SOEs, they should enhance their capability to create more value in the market and become a good player in the market. And also we want to enhance the transparency for those SOEs and further the communication between the investors and the market. When I answer questions, I also pointed out that for this year's reform, we need to put stronger emphasis in the transparency of the information. And last year, we also implemented some pilot programs in order to enhance the transparency of the information for SOEs and central government enterprises. On the other aspect, in some of the provincial level companies, those companies are encouraged to become public traded company. We need to make good use of the capitals that we have for the SOEs and leverage the capital and make them become a good performing public traded company and realize values for these companies. For regional SOEs, especially in Zhejiang province, they have accumulated very rich experience. And we want SOEs from other cities to learn from their experience and build upon their achievements. But in general, in order to become public traded, these SOEs and the central government enterprises, they need to make efforts to improve their performance. And I also encourage the media, the press, to supervise the performance of the SOEs and the central government enterprises. Thank you.
Thank you very much. News. I would like to follow up on the globalization question. As Chinese state-owned enterprises invest increasingly overseas, we are seeing the scrutiny of those investments increase. The scrutiny by governments in Europe, in South America, and particularly in the United States. We have seen investments backed by state capital delayed and in some cases rejected. And my question is this: what is your assessment of the current developments and situations with regards to this increased scrutiny? And thank you very much.
路透社，我的问题是关于 中国的国有资本全球化和走出去的一个问题。中国国有企业和国有资本目前正在迅速地进行海外的扩张，而随之而来的是越来越多的对中国海外投资的审查。一些欧洲国家、美洲国家，尤其是美国的政府，对于具有中国国家背景的投资进行了大量的审查，对他们进行推迟甚至拒绝。请问您对于这种针对中国海外投资的审查有何评价？谢谢。
好，谢谢您的问题。首先呢，
Thank you.
我认为啊，这个全球化的趋势是不可阻挡。
First of all,
这个贸易
when we
全
look
球
at
化
the globalization,
投资的
this is an inevitable trend.
所有投资者，所有接受投资的
Now, nowadays, it is more convenient to have the investment overseas, and this will bring benefits and convenience to the local residents.
国有企业，首先它应该是
As a Chinese company who make investments in especially as SOEs or central government enterprises, they should be an independent market entity.
中央确定的1+N 系列文件里边。
Today we have talked about the reform of these companies in following the spirit of the 1+N policy. And these companies will be the main body for the competition in the market. On one hand, we encourage this company to go global, but we should also pay attention to their investment. The return on the investment. And these companies, when they make the investment, they have to be accountable for their performance. So, for all of their practices, these companies should be fully accountable. I understand that in different regions, they hold different perspective on the overseas investment. And also you mentioned the scrutiny and the supervision. And this scrutiny should be fair. And there's no preference or strengthening of scrutiny on certain type of enterprises, and a different standard was held for another group of enterprises. I think a fair system should be implemented for the supervision. I think all the companies should be opened for the trade globalization and globalization for the economy. This will bring benefits to each country. And there are many uncertainties in the economic growth. And we should make concerted efforts to maintain the trend for globalization, and we should join hands to keep up with the pace of this positive development of the economy and maintain a sustainable trend. Thank you. Now we come to the last question.
好，谢谢主持人。我是香港紫荆杂志和紫荆网记者。肖主任你好，军民融合是国家战略，国资委也为此做了大量工作。2017年，国资委就与中央军委后勤保障部签署合作协议，这也是贯彻落实军民融合发展战略的重要举措。2018年，国资委如何在紧贴部队需要、推动军企深度融合方面做哪些具体工作？谢谢。
With Hong Kong Bohemia magazine, military-civilian integration is an important work of the management of state-owned capital, and an agreement has been signed between SASAC and the General Logistics Department of the Central Military Commission. What measures will SASAC take in the year 2018 to advance military-civilian integration in terms of state-owned asset and SOEs? Thank you.
好，谢谢您的问题。
Thank you for your question.
是国家大的发展战略。
For this topic, it is a key strategy for China. And this is also an obligation should be taken by SOEs and the central government enterprises. In many sectors and areas, SOEs owns resources and a lot of advantage, competitiveness, and they should play an important role and set up the model during the process of the integration of the military and the civilian. And this integration can also help to improve the manufacturing capability and the cultivation of the management team. So the overall capability is enhanced during the process of the integration. And these companies also improve their competitiveness in the market. And I think going forward, we should stick to this general orientation. On one hand, to improve their capability and the competitiveness in the market, and on the other hand, to meet the growing needs from the general public. And SOEs should further expand the scope to boost the integration process and offering better products and services. By doing all of this, we will want to emphasize the key role of the SOEs and make their own contribution to the integration process.
I would also like to take this opportunity to thank you, the host and the interpreter. This also comes to the end of the prizer. Thank you.